Here we go.
That's a fucking healthy board. Thank you, sir.
Proud of you.
You happy now? Fucking bossy pants.
All right. Phone's on silent. You know the drill.
I know. I fucked it up enough.
Every time.
Don't embarrass me in front of my friend.
So what you guys don't hear in this podcast is every time that we fuck something up, we're like, sorry, JJ, because we know she's got to take it out. That's like Q, sorry, JJ.
Yeah.
While she's listening, she's like, oh, no, what did I miss? Okay.
Soon she'll be able to see it, right? Because you can see what different words look like as you're watching the sound waves. She's like, oh, that's a sorry. You probably got a problem right there.
Bro, it's fucking scary that she can read sound waves.
No, she's been 85 episodes in.
Still terrifying. All right, well, shall we start this fucking episode?
Up to you, Big Daddy.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready? All right, problem and clock started. All right.
Yes, sir.
It's been a couple days, man. Welcome back, you motherfuckers.
What's up, buddy?
Hanging out, bud. We got a special guest today for you guys, for your viewing pleasure, for your listening pleasure. Jada's going to shoot some videos today, since she never does that when it's just me and Jack.
Yeah, nobody wants to see us anymore.
No, yeah.
They know what we look like.
I got the face for radio, so.
Yeah, me too.
That makes three of us.
So, Jack, why don't you tell us who's in the studio today?
Yeah, that mysterious voice you hear is probably one of my oldest and dearest friends, not oldest in age. It's my buddy Orion. Coming up this year, I think we've known each other for 30 years.
Yeah, you're making me feel old. That's about right.
Yeah. Well, you're only like 2 months older than me, so I mean, welcome to it. We are the oldest. Orion officially is the oldest person in the room now. It's not always me.
Yeah.
JJ's not far behind. I seem to be the youngest in the room for most of these fucking things that we do.
This is true.
Yeah.
And Orion has a pretty interesting job.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. So he'll get us
dive
into
some
that.
of that. Yeah.
But he brought us. Orion
He followed
listens.
the fucking rules, man.
He does. He brought us some extras, courtesy of his lovely wife Laurel, too.
Yeah, but we're not going to tell you what. We should promote her.
We should promote her.
What is she doing these days?
So she's got a cottage coffee roasting business. She does micro batch roasted coffee, sources the single source beans, goes from there. What she sent up for you guys tonight was bourbon infused coffees.
Yes. She sent us 4 bags, 4 different varietals, if you will. Orion warned us maybe drink this on a weekend.
Yeah, I think if you get me out of bed early enough, maybe we do a couple episodes with her. With her coffee in the morning.
Yeah, and what's it's Canyon Bird?
Canyon Bird Coffee Roasters down in Murrieta.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
And is there a landing page that she has, Instagram or?
Yep, all of that. It's Instagram, and I think that's her Canyon Bird Coffee. I believe is her webpage. I'll have to get that to you guys.
Okay. Yeah,
we'll insert.
Yeah,
and we'll put it up on the
on
Instagrams and the Facebooks and all the things.
Hell yeah.
So I'm looking at this bottle that he brought us, and I know it's good.
Oh, yeah.
Because I just fucking finished this bottle.
Yeah, there's some remnants floating around somewhere.
There's a little bit somewhere. So it's Penelope Bourbon, and it's the toasted one. Do you guys know the story behind Penelope?
I do.
You know it. So everybody out there who's listening, our dear friend Joey told us about this. So the people who make Penelope named their daughter Penelope, and she was from IVF. So every bottle that's purchased, a percentage of that goes to IVF research. It's a good cause behind a good bottle. So let me pour this up, and you shamelessly self-promote us.
Yeah. So YouTube, I got a message from Mr. Eric Pease with Western Storytellers that our intro video will be done soon. Probably this weekend, if not sooner, is what he sent me in the old Instagram DM. So
about an hour before you drive, right?
Check us out on YouTube. That video will be up there. We'll probably put some stuff on our Instagram. Whatever he gets to us, we'll be sending out. Instagram, Shattered Wisdom Podcast. I am Shattered Wisdom _ Jack. He is Shattered Wisdom _ Jerett.
I am.
Events Dofo Dinner, which Mr. Orion and his lovely wife Laurel will be attending with us. February 1st, live podcast in the Barcuso Speakeasy.
Which is coming along.
Yeah, he keeps putting stuff up on the Instagram.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to come to that, we've got 8 spots left, I think, maybe. I don't know how many people have written in and said they have interest, but
We'll find out soon.
So if you guys want to go, hit us up on the Instagram. We're going to do this live in Joey's, in his speakeasy he's building right now. So we'll have kind of first guests in there. And
we're going to drink. Like at the end of the premise of this whole thing is that we drink. But at the end of all of this, we're going to have fucking cocktails and be the first people in his speakeasy.
Yeah, that'll be dope. So if you guys want to go, let us know. It's February 1st. That's it for now. And then we'll shout out people at the end like we always do.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's cheers these up so we can drink them. Cheers, brother.
Yes, sir.
Cheers. Yeah. Does not disappoint.
Never does.
No.
Oh, you think we should have Orion draw a question?
He must.
He has to.
He's the guest.
What's the strangest thing you've ever overheard in a conversation?
Oh, man.
Oh, Lord.
So I hear everything. It's a listening world out here. But I'll tell you the funniest fucking thing, man, and the weirdest fucking thing. I was on an airplane. And now for the life of me, I can't remember where I was going. But the people in front of me was a guy and a girl. And they got to talking and hanging out. And then they're making out in the middle of this fucking flight.
Oh, nice.
And she's like, I'm going to cancel my plans and come hang out with you. And he was like, I don't think so. I think his wife and kids had flown there before he did. And this girl was making life fucking plans with this guy that she had just met on this airplane. Like, jumping his fucking bones in the front seat. It was fucking wild.
What did, on Fight Club, what did Ed Norton call him? A single serving friend? Or like something like that?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a tough question. I'm trying to think back on what is some of the weirdest things I've heard. I've heard a lot of weird shit.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking, it's weird.
I don't know. I don't know if I can name one specifically. You got anything, Orion?
I don't know. When flying with the airlines, hearing some rants and raves coming out of the left seat were always entertaining, but none of them really stand out.
Yeah.
I think you take the cake on that one.
People just... And when they think that nobody's listening is when they say the deepest, darkest, dirtiest fucking shit that they've ever thought. And it's like, what the fuck is wrong with this person?
Yeah. Oh, my God.
So...
Yeah, but what's more entertaining? Somebody who doesn't think that anybody's listening, or somebody who's actually out standing with a bullhorn to make sure everybody hears what they say?
Exactly.
Yeah. Tell me how weird you are. We know some people like that.
Yeah, no, my favorite is like, yeah, dude, like, but we people watch and we listen, and that's a form of entertainment these days that I enjoy. But yeah, man, like, the thing that sticks out in my head is that, because I was like, God damn, like, who, like, just right now, just like, I want to be with you.
That's awesome.
Calm down.
Hopefully this is like transcontinental. This is not like here to Denver.
Yeah, it was not a long flight. It probably was here to Denver.
Oh my God.
Yeah, man.
Nice.
And I like, so I've recently been flying a lot, and people have the weirdest conversations.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I have to go through my text message with JJ, because every time somebody's talking some weird shit, I'm like, you're never gonna fucking believe what this guy said. She's like, tell me when you land. I'm like, I can't wait to fucking call you. So
well, that's funny you bring that up, because we're going to talk about Mr. Orion's life and career
career path over here. Yeah,
as a pilot. And he's done several different types of flying, and the last one that he's done, we will get into kind of heavy because it hits home for us in the state of California.
Yeah.
When you hear, you guys will know. So, Orion, why don't you tell us a little bit about I know everything about you, but tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, and what you're doing.
So, I guess easiest way to step back is I started flying in 95. I could actually solo a glider before I could drive a car. So I started flying at 14 years old. once I sort of got going with it, the ball never really stopped. And I think last check, it's like 11,500 hours of flight time in my logbook at this point.
Holy shit.
So just a little bit.
Yeah.
Acid seat time.
Yeah.
A few moments.
Yeah, I mean, I've done everything from flight instruction to flying corporate, flying for the airlines. I spent a better part of my career flying for the airlines. And then after COVID kind of came along, I took a pretty significant pivot and started to get into the path of aerial firefighting.
Yep.
So as it stands right now, I fly one of the tankers that's on contract for the state of California.
Which they need.
Oh, desperately.
I don't know if anybody out there's heard, but California is always fucking burning.
Yep. We're in the rainy season, then we're in the Bernie season.
Yes.
And then we're in the mudslide season, and then we're back in the rainy season.
So job security is a real thing for Orion.
Yeah, and it's funny. So I went to Arizona State, and when I was at Arizona State, Orion was at Emory-Riddle.
Yeah.
So we used to meet up out there.
Yep.
And I think you were doing some private flying then.
Yeah,
also.
so I was in Prescott for a little bit just when you were getting started in Tempe.
Yeah.
And then after that, I kind of shifted and finished up my schooling off campus and finished up my ratings. And at that point, I was flying for, at the time, my understanding was a hedge fund, early 2000s.
Yeah,
That quickly
yeah.
devolved into a full-blown Ponzi scheme before that one completely
Of course
fell
it
apart.
did.
Nice.
Oh, the good old days.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so those were some interesting, entertaining flights that we made with that one there.
Yeah.
And then pivoted from there once that job kind of ran out and ended up going to work for my first airlines at that point in 2006. And spent the better part of my time flying for 4 different airlines. Flew everything from regional stuff where you go from Ontario to Los Angeles, Palm Springs to Las Vegas, all the way up to LA to Hong Kong, Brisbane, some long-haul international flights too.
Are you guys switching off, like sleeping? Is there like a cabin for the pilot? Like you have a reserve pilot in case you hate your hours or whatever?
Yeah, so that ultra long-haul stuff, like when we go to Hong Kong, LA to Hong Kong was scheduled just shy of 16 hours.
Damn.
So we would actually have 4 pilots assigned to the flight.
Oh, shit.
And there
Okay.
would be 2 captains and 2 first officers.
Okay.
So you had a full complement of 2 crews assigned to the trip.
Yeah.
And the way that it worked at that particular company that I worked with is that you didn't fight for what shift you wanted when you showed up. You bid for it. So
Seniority's
seniority's everything.
Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Right? And so what it was is that if you wanted to do the takeoffs and landings, you got second break. So if you didn't have the seniority of the takeoffs and landings, you got the first break. So it just depended on what worked well for you. I didn't have that kind of seniority. The joke was that in a 4-man crew, when you've got 2 jump seats, there was the mushroom seat. You sat in the dark and just basically sat on your hands for the first part of the flight.
Yeah.
But that would also lead into, you would take off, get airborne out of LA, get up to altitude, and that meant you had to rack out for 7.5 hours.
Okay.
Because when you woke up, you now started at 7,000 miles of ocean, and your first piece of land was Manila.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Orion has developed or had developed this crazy ability to just go to sleep, like whenever,
Yes.
wherever.
Yeah.
You'd be like, Orion, go
like,
to
ready to
sleep
go.
right now. And he'd go, okay, I'm going to go in the next room. And he'd be asleep. It was the weirdest shit. Because we've been hunting and doing all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
He's like, I think I'm going to lay down.
And take a nap.
I'm like, what the fuck? How do you do that? I have to go through a checklist and turn my brain off, and it's a fucking nightmare.
There's definitely some advantages to be able to do that with an airline job.
Oh yeah. Oh, I bet. And those long hauls, they pay better, right? Because you get paid while you're off the ground.
Correct. Yeah. At the airlines, most of the contracts are set up that once the door is closed and you're off the gate, the flight crew's getting paid.
Okay. So if you got a delay on the tarmac, you don't give a fuck because you're getting paid.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
pretty much.
Now, you said, too, like, seniority, if you go from airline to airline,
Seniority does not transfer.
yeah, you start back at the bottom.
Oh,
Yes.
shit.
Yes.
So there's no incentive to change.
Well, so that's it. And that's where I think for myself, I'm a bit of an anomaly in the sense that I had pretty good seniority at a major carrier where I was flying those international trips and opted to pivot and go into aerial firefighting where I had no seniority and totally just effectively walk away from a pretty significant seniority at a major airline and make the shift to something that was a little bit more meaningful, more engaging, more interesting.
Right. Well, because you're the type of person, if you're not interested, you don't want to do it.
Well, and so that was it, right? I mean, it's kind of like,
Yeah, this is a cool paycheck, but it's zero fun.
yeah. And don't get me wrong. I mean, The airlines provide a good paycheck. There's no problems with it. I started finding some trips that worked well for me with my, my lifestyle.
Yeah.
Probably some of the more comfortable flying that I did was out of Los Angeles doing domestic transcons, LA to New York to San Francisco, some down, over to Hawaii. That was pretty straightforward, pretty engaging flying because you get settled in with your layovers and you figure out your rhythm and your pattern with it.
Right.
The long haul stuff, man. Go to Hong Kong the first time, it's like, oh, cool, this is kind of a cool bucket list item to check off.
Yeah.
The second time, halfway across the pond, I'm sitting there wanting to gouge my eyes out with boardom.
Right. Yeah.
I don't
what
need
do
to
you
sit.
do?
I don't need to sit here and watch this computer report lat longs, at the checkpoints and make sure the signal's been sent.
Right.
Jeez. Oh my gosh.
So,
yeah, I can see those being fucking terrible.
And especially after having had a taste of aerial firefighting at that point.
Yeah.
So, it was. I always sort of was intrigued by that mission, by what was available on there. By the time that I had the experience and was competitive from an hour standpoint, there was two things that were kind of working against me. One, I had a young family.
Right.
My daughter was 4, and we're still relatively young, new in our marriage. And at that point, most of the contracts were 6 days on, 1 day off, or 12 days on, 2 days off for the length of the fire season.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't justify giving up the airline schedule and seniority that I had at that point to make that shift. Subsequently, the contracts got better. Anywhere from like a 12 and 12 footprint. The one that I work is a 10 and 5 footprint, 10 days on, 5 days off. And when COVID came along, it's kind of interesting. I mean, most of us are a generation that remember what 9/11 was like, and post that for about a couple of weeks, and the airlines didn't operate. It was just quiet skies.
Yeah.
After the COVID shutdowns happened, our CEO at the time came to our pilot group when I was still at the airlines and said, 9/11 was the previous bad financial high watermark. We're 6 weeks into these shutdowns. This is 3 to 4 times worse than 9/11 financially already.
It's 6 weeks.
Yes.
God.
Yeah, it's 6 weeks into the shutdown. It was 3 to 4 times worse financially.
Holy shit.
So I figured that even with 4,000 people junior to me at the airlines, my job was not safe.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what a lot of pilots were afraid of, right?
Yeah. So there was the carry through, right? I mean, there was the bailouts to keep everybody employed.
Right.
The airlines couldn't furlough anybody. But I still made enough of a pivot and called in significant number of favors and was able to land the job within the contract that I'm working with, for the state of California.
Yeah. I remember when you were doing that.
Yeah.
And it started, you went to a barbecue.
Yes.
And they were kind of like, it's almost like a fraternity.
Yeah.
Like you had to get to know the guys and be
before they
accepted.
let you come in.
But before you even could almost apply for the position, he was like, I need to meet these guys. They need to get to know me. They need to be friendly with me. And then I can actually start being serious and being like, hey, by the way, I'd like to.
So it's a good old boys club.
I wouldn't necessarily call it a good old boys club, but I call it more like rushing a frat, rushing a guard unit, something along those lines there.
Well, because they want to, it's selective, right? And it's not a million people that do this.
No.
You're a very tight-knit community.
Yeah, it's a tight-knit
niche.
community, but it's also one of those types of things, too, that when there's no fire activity, can I hang around a base for this guy and not lose my mind interacting with him, especially on a 10-day stretch?
Right, yeah, because you're on no matter what, right? So your 10 and 5 is no matter whether there's a fire or not, just in case. So you're on standby.
Absolutely.
You're just like a firefighter.
Welcome to California.
Yeah. We are just like a firefighter, except for the fact that we're employed by a private corporation that provides the service for the state.
Okay.
So we're not actually CAL FIRE employees. We're not Forest Service employees.
Sure.
We provide a contract service for the state at that point.
Huh.
And during the times when the fixed-wing aircraft are available, we hang out at the airbase and have to blend into that lifestyle.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's funny because Orion and I talk all the time, and I'll call him, and we'll be talking, and I'll hear something come over the loudspeaker in the background, and he'll get quiet, and I'll know. I'll get quiet too, because he'll go, okay, no, we're good. What was it?
That didn't have anything to do with me.
We'll pick that conversation back up at that point, but that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's absolutely definitely the case. You start getting used to hearing the tones and the calls in the background, and you quickly identify, going, is that me or not? Am I going to be going to work?
Right. So you guys, you fly fixed wing.
Yeah.
But there's also helicopter guys. There's a lot of other varieties of things that people can fly. Are they all attached to your same thing?
So it all depends on the contracts that work out, right?
Okay.
Sort of a broad picture. But yeah, I mean, you can kind of divide aerial firefighting into two big features, whether they're fixed wing aircraft or helicopter operations.
Okay.
Then within that, there's some various disciplines, in each sort of avenue with it. Most of the helicopters are set up for water dropping capabilities.
Right.
Everything from the small Bell 204s, Huey type aircraft, with Bambi buckets or tanks on them,
Okay.
all the way up to the big, Chinooks that have got a 2,000 gallon water tank that's on those things.
Yeah.
So the rotorcraft definitely carry a big range of capacity on there. The fixed wing aircraft, you can kind of then divide them up again in half one more time, maybe in three groups from there. You have what are called the air attack platforms, and what their job is to put a firefighter, whether it's a Forest Service firefighter or a CAL FIRE firefighter, over the fire to work as a coordinator with the incident commander on the ground.
Okay.
Their role is known as an ATGS, Air Tactical Group Supervisor.
Okay.
So like a spotter.
Yeah, it's kind. I mean, that's the colloquial term a lot of people use as a spotter.
Okay.
From a little bit more better perspective would be like a forward air control, like a FAC, from a military background.
Yeah.
And what they do is they sort of give a bird's eye view of the incident, what's going on. They relay that to the incident commander, and then by coordinating with the incident commander and what their priorities are, they then direct where the aircraft are going to go to work on that fire.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, and it might be, hey, we need to support a dozer line that's over here. We need to support a hand crew that's over here. We need structure protection. So that's what that role of that ATGS is. So the pilot's responsibility is to make sure that that person has the best vantage point possible of the fire.
Okay.
Right. Whether we're looking at a 2-acre fire or a 2,000 acre or 250,000 acre fire.
Right.
So you have to sort of scale it from there.
Okay.
Then beyond that, on that same sort of fixed wing platform, you have what are the lead planes. And their job is to go low level. They don't actually drop retardant, but they start to come up with a plan to best utilize the fixed wing aircraft.
Okay.
Is that where you started also?
No, I started as on the air attack platform.
Okay.
Flying a firefighter around.
Okay.
The lead plane qualification is a Forest Service qualification. It's a pretty extensive training program to get through that. Most of those guys who are lead plane pilots were cutting line at some point. They were firefighters before they became pilots.
Nice. What a freaking trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
So,
But you as a ground guy know the significance of the air guy because that guy's saving your fucking life.
So I like to think of it this way here. So what I fly now is a tanker. One that I use, the tanker that I fly is not one of the scoopers, so we're not picking up water with it.
Right, you're getting loaded before you leave?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so we hot load at the base, so we can come back into the base, get a load of retardant. I can carry up to 1,200 gallons depending upon the weight load of my tanker. My typical dispatch is 1,000 gallons of retardant when I go to a fire.
Okay.
But best way to think about it is not that I have the capacity to put out the fire. It is retardant, right? Just by its inherent nature, it is meant to just merely slow the fire down.
Right.
Yeah.
So I carry a belly full of time. And how can I best put this time to use on the ground to give the guys the best opportunity on the ground to contain this fire?
Oh, that's a really good...
Yeah.
What a really good analogy. And it's funny, I went up to Big Bear a couple weeks ago and helped my buddy do some work on his cabin. And I drove down the 330, the front side where that was the line fire.
The line fire this year.
And it's scorched earth.
Yeah.
It looks like a battlefield. And then you can see the pink retardant. Just literally can see where they painted a line around that fire to contain it.
Yeah.
So are you flying with a co-pilot? How many people are on your tanker?
So the equipment that I fly is a Grumman S2.
Okay.
It was a Vietnam-era submarine hunter that has been converted.
Okay.
Nice.
Originally, when they were deployed at that point, it was a 4-person crew. You got an aircraft commander, a co-pilot, a radio guy, and a weapons officer.
Okay.
We've simplified it to a single pilot aircraft.
So you are picking the time to drop because you have to you're not dropping over your target. You're dropping before you get there, right? And spraying the fucking side of
And
things.
so that's where a lot of this comes into. That's why our program takes so long to get a qualified captain in that, is to learn that timing, right?
Right, yeah, because it's got to be difficult.
And it's no joke. It's something that we will chase the rest of our careers to figure out that timing and drift.
Yeah.
Because again, not only is it forward motion of the retardant, depending upon, do I have a tailwind? Do I have a headwind? It's also
do I have a
lateral
crosswind?
motion, right? How far is this going to carry? What's the slope of the terrain look like? Is it going to carry the retardant up and over the slope?
Right.
Is it going to settle down the slope? So there's a lot of that very artistic gray areas that we operate in. It's all calibrated eyeball stuff that we work with.
Yeah, like you're as exact as you can be. So like you're a professional in what you do. So it's I would calibrate it kind of towards like race car drivers, right? So you're watching the light, boom, boom, boom. You in your head kind of know like, all right, I got to start dropping here to finish there because you know how much retardant you have on there, and you know. I'm sure you calculate how far your span is on that and everything. I'm sure it's a mathematical fucking equation.
It becomes almost a gut instinct at some point with it.
Okay.
You know, the bigger thing is you're going through your training and you start figuring out how to put this retardant on the ground. Because really, when you get to this level of flying, you know, our instructors are not there to teach you how to fly an airplane.
Right. Yeah, you should already know that when you get here.
You should have a pretty good handle on how to fly an airplane when you step into this industry.
Right.
Here.
Okay.
So what ends up happening is now you need to take what you have learned from being above the fire for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons watching this. Hopefully you've been paying attention and understanding what the firefighter is sort of directing people to do.
Right.
And then taking that knowledge into the tanker to learn going, where does my retardant make the most sense?
Okay.
Right? So if I've got a fire that's burning, in theory, I could be the first firefighting resource on scene.
Yeah.
I could be there before any ground resources. I could be there before any other aircraft that are showing on up. And I might need to make a decision, you know, do I wait this thing out? Do I have time? How far away are my ground resources? Where do I put this retardant to where it starts to make sense so that this fire can be held in check so that a dozer can show up or an engine company can show up and actually start attacking this thing from the ground?
Yeah.
But beyond that, you know, you start to take a look at it from, okay, you build the drop backwards. You know, I need a safe exit always.
Because when you're dropping weight, I'm sure you get real light.
Oh, yes. You get real light. But more importantly, what the scary thing is that I don't want to go down there low level and have a tank malfunction and I can't get rid of the retardant.
And you can't get up.
And I can't get out.
Well, because California's all fucking mountains and all these mountains burn. I mean, that's all that's burning.
That's it.
And a few years ago, you and I were talking, there was that plane in, I think, Greece.
Yeah.
Where the guy caught
one of the pontoons.
He caught a pontoon on a tree.
Oh, shit.
And it ripped the wing off. And that plane crashed, and I think that was a 4-person. There was a multiple.
It was one of the scoopers. Yeah, I don't know how many they crew it with, but yeah, it was. But
one of the whole crew. I mean, he came around, and they had a video, and all of a sudden the wing was gone, and he just lawn darted.
Yeah. That's what happens when you lose a wing.
Yeah. So, and again, that's part of it, right? And we need to have a perspective of going, how do I get out of this if this thing doesn't work right for me? And I have to build this all the way backwards from when I show up on the fire to have that approach path to make this work, you know, as we come through.
So you got to think worst case scenario, hope for best.
Yep.
And you got to get in there aggressively because this isn't a pussyfoot kind of thing. Like you're diving into these fucking mountains.
So again, that's the whole thing, right? I mean, it's easy to make it sound like a hotshot cowboy type thing.
I mean, it kind of is, but
well, the reality is that, you know, everything we try to do is all about risk mitigation.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it does mean no good if I hurt somebody on the ground, bend my aircraft, hurt myself, or anything else.
Yeah, you make it worse, you don't make it better.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so with that too, it becomes, you know, what am I trying to protect? You know, where does this retardant make sense? You know, do I need to be this aggressive, you know, to get down to the bottom of this canyon when the reality is they can't engage it from the bottom? They're going to have to come to the top. Right. So maybe we take a step back, right?
So if you're first on scene, it's your judgment call. How do you think that this fire should be fought? Yeah. And then you're going to let them, you're going to relay, right? Because it's a team effort. So you're relaying to the guys, hey, I put this on this path to block it from doing this. Why don't you guys attack it from this way? You have the bird's eye view. You're there.
And so that's part of it, right? We'll show up. We have to make, you know, a relatively quick assessment. Does this fire need retardant on it or not right now? Okay. You know, if it does, you know, we typically show up in pairs. We'll go to work. We'll put retardant on there, and then we'll get in touch with the emergency command center, and we'll start giving them a size up, going, hey, you've got a vegetation fire. Here's approximate location with it. Here's the potential. You know, it's surrounded by 3 sides on roads. You have structures up ahead of it there. Potential for 30 acres. Continue the response. Right. You know, and just start to give them that mental picture so the captains on the ground can start to understand going, how much do I need to scale this response to this fire at?
Right. Well, yeah, and you, with the bird's eye view, can see, oh, man, it's actually, it looks like it's this big, but it's actually already gone over the next ridge. Yeah. And it's down at the next canyon that you can't see.
Yeah.
And
we may need to back off, and we're going to have to catch it up over here. You know, it's wind-driven, you know, whatever kind of, you know, movement that it is. You know, the reality is, too, a lot of the times you'll show on up, and there might be one brush rig that's showing up there on the ground, right? That's a couple of guys with a 400-gallon water tank on a 4-wheel drive pickup truck that are attacking this.
Right.
And you'll hear it in their voice. Their voice gets real fast, kind of high pitch on the radio. There, hey, this is they're the incident commander. They're the first resource on scene, right?
Right.
But you can also talk them down too, going, hey guys, yeah, you got about 2 to 3 acres of grass right now. You're surrounded on all 4 sides by a road, potential of 5 acres.
Right.
We'll hold an orbit here and we'll back you up.
Yeah, just
nice.
in case.
Yeah, and it just brings the tension down at that point too.
Right. Yeah, because
So-
you know what's going. So when you're on the ground at a fire, you see what you see.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's all you know. But when you got somebody above you being like, "Hey, man, it's not that bad right now.
Yeah.
Right? You can do this. Don't worry, we're here." That would fucking in any situation where your fight or flight kicks, right? Because I mean, your adrenaline's got to be fucking on 1,000.
So that's actually the wild thing. People always ask me, going, "I mean, you always amped up over this. You always jazzed on it." And the reality is, man, if I ever find myself scared or really jazzed up, I probably did something really wrong a while ago, right? I should always I should always be kind of that mellow yellow, right? Just kind of cruise, like, nope, yep, I've got that, right? Or where it gets, interesting too, is you'll get the request going, hey, can you put a drop in here? Going, nope, sorry, man, can't do that, but I can do this for you instead.
Yeah.
And no is always a complete answer when we get into this, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we really need a drop here. Going, nope, there's no safe way for me to do that.
Yeah.
So let's back off. I'll give you the drop here and back you up this way.
Now, can you drop water also? Is that a different training from dropping retardant to dropping water?
So our aircraft is capable of dropping water. We can pick up water at a base, but the tactics using water versus retardant are kind of different.
Okay.
Water is much more of a direct attack. I want to put that straight on the fire line. It's going to cool off the water. It takes me the same amount of time, sometimes if not longer, to get a load of water versus retardant.
Okay.
So I'm better off, grabbing retardant, putting it to use, getting it out ahead of the fire there, and letting that chemical reaction take place just to slow that fire down. Then at that point, I have dropped water on fires before, but that's only because I'm moving an aircraft out of maintenance, and we had water in the belly, and we were going to the base to pick up retardant. There was a start. Went to work on the fire there, doused a tree, and then went to the base, got retardant, and started fighting the fire back to our normal pattern at that point.
I wonder how many fish get dropped on fires. Is that a real thing?
I don't know. I'm really not sure.
Like if you're picking up water from lakes and shit, like these belly-fed fucking
I don't think the scoopers probably pick up that much. I mean, they're only dipping about less than a foot into the water
are they
there.
really?
Yeah, because you just skim the top.
Okay.
The helicopters are probably a little bit more aggressive with that. But again, you're sitting there at one point, and the uptake on it there. I'd honestly be surprised if you're actually finding fish in the water.
Well, and there was that old wives' tale where they found a scuba tank out in the middle. Oh, they picked up a scuba diver. Blah, blah, blah. Like, first of all, who's scuba diving in a lake at
Without
6
a flag.
inches deep? It would have caught the tank and ripped the tank off their back before it would have.
Well, it would have
picked
fucked
them
that
up.
whole suction up.
Yeah.
Well, and on top, a suction hose is 10 inches in diameter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even a plane coming in with the belly open, it's not.
Yeah.
If it's going a foot deep, it'd just cut you in half on its way out.
Yeah, to just leave your ass there. All right, so fish getting dropped, bullshit.
Yeah, why
was in here?
myth busted?
Myth busted. All right.
At least not on fires. Now, Fish and Game will deploy fish into lakes from tankers.
Yeah.
I've
That
seen
makes
that.
sense.
Yeah, I've seen that, which seems like it would just murder all the fish.
Have you ever seen anybody recast a fish after they caught it? It's fucking violent.
Dude. So have you had any funny or oh shit moments? I mean, how long have you been flying for the Forest Service?
So this is my 4th season that I've had in aero firefighting.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say anything in particular with this. I mean, I've come back from some drops and thought to myself, well, that might have been a little aggressive for 14,000 acres of grass. There's no house out there, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's all part of the learning that we sort of go through on that.
What about your time at the airlines? Anything crazy there?
Yeah, the airlines.
So if you're flying and listeing to this...
how about I just put it in a nice broad statement? I did a stint where I worked for Spirit Airlines for 2 years.
Oh, yes, how'd you like that?
Oh, yeah. Discount airline.
Yeah, didn't they just fucking go out of business?
I think they're dealing with bankruptcy right now. So
Chapter 11.
yeah, something like that.
Well, because they tried to partner with JetBlue, right?
They did.
And they told them, no, that's a fucking monopoly. You can't do that.
Yeah.
She's aggressive today, huh?
Yeah, dude. What's going on, Boba? Boba, the fucking podcast cat's in here showing
I
off.
will give you a story about when I was early on, very early on. So, like I said, I started out flying gliders when I was pretty young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jack's told me some stories.
Yeah.
We'll tell one of them in a bit.
And, gliders are interesting, right? Because, I mean, you're talking about using air currents to stay aloft, and you're flying without an engine, and, that's just what you do, right? Mm-hmm. So after getting my glider rating through the process, I got my single-engine land rating. So I'm an 18-year-old kid taking my check ride to get my single-engine land rating on top of my private glider certificate.
Okay.
And through that process, what you end up doing is you have to demonstrate your ability to handle a Cessna 172 when the engine fails. And what do you do, right?
And the 172 is the 2 or 4-seater.
It's just your ubiquitous 4-seat trainer. Okay. High-wing 4-seat trainer is about as simple as it gets.
Okay.
And so I'm out there with the examiner, and we're flying along, and he fails the engine on me. He basically pulls it back to idle power, and I'm supposed to play this role of, troubleshooting the engine and finding a safe place to land this aircraft. So we're cruising along. He fails the engine. I go through my checklist. I pick a dirt strip. I drift over towards it. And as I'm drifting over towards this dirt strip, I look to the north of me up on this rocky outcropping. There's a red-tailed hawk or a turkey vulture that's climbing out in a thermal. So me being the glider pilot, I drift on over in the 172, and I hook into the thermal and start climbing out with the turkey vulture. With this failed engine.
Yeah, this guy's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, so I take it one step further. Me being the cocky 18-year-old kid, I turn to this old-timer, and I says, hey, man, I don't know what your schedule's like today, but I got a few more dirt strips between here and the airport where there's maintenance. We can work our way down this ridge line here as in glider mode and take it to an airport with maintenance and see what's going on with this engine.
Yeah.
It's like, just get the fucking motor started.
It's like, I get it.
Yeah, he basically turns to me and says, I've taken over 50 applicants here and done the same thing, and nobody has thermaled the 172 out. We are landing here.
Yeah.
Roger that. Went over the lake where there's a sink and got down and landed on the dirt strip there.
That's awesome.
So with the gliders, do you get pulled into like by a plane? Does a plane pull your glider out, or how do you get started on your glider?
Gliders have basically 3 different launch methods. You can arrow tow, which is behind the airplane. Right. That's typically the most common. In Europe and some places here in the United States, they do a ground launch method. So either behind a vehicle, which is amazing.
Really?
Or a winch launch. And a winch launch is the closest thing that you will experience to a aircraft carrier
like a
launch.
Catapult? Yeah.
You know about that, Jerett.
Yeah, those are aggressive.
Yeah, but what you end up doing in the glider is you just pay out 7,000 feet of cable, hook it up to the glider, and you put it on a big block 450 with a big spool on there that starts pulling in the cable on the transmission, on the automatic transmission. And they hit a speed, and you are airborne in the glider in about 30 feet and climbing at a 45-degree deck angle.
Oh, shit.
And because it's like a kite, if you want to go faster, you pull harder. And so you climb steeper, and you kite on over with it.
Okay.
So that's kind of an amazing way to get a glider airborne. And then some of the gliders, too, are self-launch. They've got an engine on board where they can take off under their own power and then secure the engine and convert to soaring flight.
Like a sailboat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of gliders. If I had my way and was running the FAA, I would make everybody start in a glider before they could get into anything else.
Really?
Just this, what you learn with it is pretty amazing.
Well, because you can, with no power on an airplane, I mean, they're meant to glide, right? Like a certain amount.
Yeah, they glide. So all the skill sets you have in the glider translate directly to handling an airplane with the engine failure.
Okay.
Right? They just don't glide well. They're not meant to.
Right, they're not meant for that, right.
But even beyond that, what you can end up doing, like for me, until I started doing some of the international stuff to Europe, my longest flight in my logbook was in a glider. Almost 8 hours airborne in a glider.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang. Just off the wind. Yep.
That's
insane.
Yeah. Right, and so I mean, it's a tour, right? You don't just sit over at the airport for 8 hours. You go somewhere,
right?
Right?
Fucking let's go.
Yeah. So I mean, I took off on that particular flight out of Warner Springs, went south to the Mexican border. Can't go international, so I went north to Barstow, back to the Mexican border, and back to Warner Springs in that one flight.
All on air.
Yeah.
Just no. That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
Gliders are crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Huh.
Well, and so then I've had some other adventures too, where I took off out of Phoenix, turned the south rim of the Grand Canyon, couldn't make it back to Phoenix, landed up in Williams, which is, halfway between the Grand Canyon and, I-40 up there.
That's where the Polar Express is.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was at Williams Valley Airport. So I happened to land out there. It's like the third weekend in June or something like that.
So do you know, sorry to interrupt your story, but do you know, like, when you're losing altitude and you can't gain it back? Is that a thing?
So you never leave yourself without an out, right? Goes right back to the tanker flying. I don't go low level unless I know I've got an exit. I don't press forward in the glider unless I know I've got another landing option.
Okay.
So you're playing hopscotch everywhere.
Got it.
You're
Okay.
constantly playing hopscotch about where I can land. Now, sometimes, you turn back around going, it's like, well, okay, I'm not going to go all the way back to Phoenix from the Grand Canyon today. That's just the bout that I'm dealt with.
Right.
So you find another airport and you land there. You just have to commit yourself to it.
Okay.
So, yeah, I ended up, landing out there. And it happened to be that at the Air Museum there that day, I was there flying, and everybody thought they had the coolest thing they'd flown in with until the glider kid shows up.
That's so, like, the idea of a glider is so wild to me.
Well, it's quiet.
It's just like a paper airplane. Like,
That's a giant paper airplane.
Yeah, it's what, like, you put the styrofoam ones together when you're a kid and fucking throw them. Same thing concept. Like,
Same concept.
that's wild. And then so you have to know the weather patterns. Is that kind of what your pre-flight is?
Yes, I mean, you get an idea of what the day looks like. You kind of see what the soaring capabilities are. What am I looking for? Am I going to be chasing thermals? Am I going to be running a ridge? And the glider capability kind of comes into that a little bit too, and what you're comfortable with and what the terrain and where you're flying allows for. I mean, there's been some absolutely wild flights. There's one pilot up out of Minden right now who's flying in wave, which is air's a lot like water. Right.
Okay.
So think about a stream flowing over a smooth bottom. You put a log that runs perpendicular to the flow of stream across. The standing waves down behind the log. Mm-hmm. Air does the same thing.
Yeah, air acts as a fluid.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's fluid dynamics, right? So water and air are very similar that way. So the air acts the same way flowing over the Sierras when you get these strong west winds that come over the Sierras.
Okay.
So these waves propagate vertically, but they don't. Unlike thermals that take solar energy, they don't shut off at night.
Really?
So they're happening all the time as long as the atmosphere is correct for it. So there's actually a guy that's flying up out of Minden, Nevada right now, running a glider with night vision goggles, doing 17, 18-hour flights in the Sierra Wave.
Really?
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that sounds terrifying at night. That's like swimming in the ocean
Right?
at night.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But then you have other guys that are taking to an even further extreme. They're down in Argentina with an Airbus sponsored project, and they're taking the glider. Their ultimate goal is to take a unpowered aircraft to 100,000 feet. Dang. They have achieved 76,000 feet already out of Argentina
With no motor.
No motor.
The gliders who have the motor attached to them, the parachute guys, I've heard of those guys getting stuck in like windstorms and getting thrown like way up in the fucking sky.
So those are paragliders. Those fall in the ultralight category.
Okay.
Things like that. But yeah, I mean, I've even had in a rigid wing glider, one that you sit inside, right, a racing setup over New Mexico, where I've had to run away from the thunderstorm as fast as I could so I don't get sucked into the thunderstorm.
Really?
Yeah.
That'd be so fucking cool. I don't trust myself enough to fly anything. I'll crash. I know me.
Hell no. Absolutely not.
We're like, watch this fucking barrel roll.
Hey, barrel roll, Shaq.
Yeah. Fuck you. So let's tell a funny story
Jump into barrel rolls right now.
with Orion and I.
Barrel roll it out.
Orion.
Is Senior aware of this one yet?
Yeah, I told him.
Okay.
I confessed. So
You put it on the podcast once, so it'll be good to hear your side of it.
my parents told me, we love Orion. We trust Orion, but we really don't want you flying with Orion. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Cool. Yeah.
So we went acrobatic flying.
Okay.
So Orion and I, it was down at Carlsbad.
Yeah.
So we walk out to the airfield, and there's this little plane, and he goes, hey, I need you to help me take the seats out. And I go, why are we taking seats out? And he said, because we're going to sit on our parachutes. And I was like,
It's a goddamn red flag.
should have been. So
today we're sitting on our parachutes.
Yeah.
I'm not going.
me being the cocky, I think we were 19 or 20.
Yeah, probably somewhere around that, yeah.
Me being as cocky as him was like, all right, that's what you do. And it's the old-timey, like you see like a paratrooper or something kind of set up where the parachute's on your ass, it's not on your back. Mm-hmm. So we take the seats out, and he hands me a parachute, and we put it on. I'm like, okay. And he goes, "You're sitting in the back." So I sit behind him, and you put a 5-point harness on. And he said, "Okay, a couple things. This is how the parachute works." And then the one thing I remember is, he goes, "If we get in trouble, you're going to hear me say eject, 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 and then you're not going to hear anything because I'm going to jump out of the airplane.
Because I'm gone. I ejected.
And you need to follow me."
And how big is this door that we're talking? Because if I'm thinking little plane, little door.
You would die in the plane.
I'm going down with this motherfucker. Got it. Okay.
Orion and I were probably maybe an inch shorter than we are now and 30 pounds lighter, and we would have been okay.
Yeah.
But
You guys are getting sucked out the fucking door.
you might as well nose this fucker down and just not walk away with a limp.
All right, got it.
So as we're taxiing, I'm practicing taking this 5-point harness off and bailing out. I'm chest strap, crotch strap, out, chest strap, and I'm trying to build like this
Muscle memory.
Muscle memory.
Yeah, because when panic sets in, the only thing you have is muscle
Like
memory.
if Orion said eject, 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 I would have the balls to actually do it.
Yeah.
I probably would have died in that fucking airplane.
Yeah.
I don't know if I actually would have bailed out, but I'm practicing. We take off, we're flying around, and I'll never forget, we were over the 15 freeway.
Terrific place to be.
So between the 76 and the 78 over the 15 freeway.
Okay.
And Orion said, "We're going to do a bunch of different moves. If I do something you don't like, tell me and I won't do it again." Okay, so we start with like the barrel roll. Wow. Like, that was cool. And then we do like the loop. I'm like, okay, that was cool. We did some stuff. He goes, "Okay, I'm going to pull us up and we're going to stall. And then I'm going to bring the plane over." And I think you kind of did like a corkscrew.
Yeah, we did a spin.
And I'm like, okay. So he fucking, and he goes, and there's nothing. And I'm at blue sky, and then he fucking noses the plane over, and I'm like, that's the 15 freeway, and there's a 76. And we start a spin, and we hit the bottom of the spin, and he pulls back on that fucking stick, and we, and the plane starts again, and meanwhile, I'm in the back, trying to keep my eyeballs from coming out of my mouth. Like, I swear, I'm like, my intestines are going to come right out of my asshole. And I'm doing the, he pulls out, I was like, I don't like that one.
That one was terrible.
I don't want to do that one
again.
And he's like, he's fucking laughing at the door. He's like, yeah, most people don't.
Yeah.
So we do a couple more things, and we land, and we get out of the plane, and we met his mom at Rubio's for lunch. And he's all happy and chipper, and I'm contemplating my life choices and how I ended up.
I don't even think I can fucking eat right now.
I got a burrito and some chips, and I just took a tortilla chip and just kind of like pushed the burrito around. He's like, "What's going on, bud? You're not hungry?" And his mom, who's been like a mom to me, he's like, "Yeah, Jack, what's going on? What's wrong?" And I'm like, your son fucking traumatized me. That's what's wrong. I don't know. It's the silence.
It's the worry that thing's not going to start back up.
It's the silence, yeah. And then when we came back over, you're trying to look. I'm trying to look to orient myself. I don't know where I am. I'm looking at the fucking sky.
Yeah.
Then I'm looking at the freeway. And then once the motor came back on, it was okay. But we pulled like 4 Gs.
Yeah, probably on the loops. We're probably pulling 4 Gs, probably 2.5, 3 on that pull out.
Yeah, so you feel it. It like feels like it's not that bad, but it pushes. It feels like it's going to push your intestines out. It was the wildest shit.
Have you seen those G-force videos of like the military pilots go through?
Like 9
your face
Gs,
fucking
like,
melts off, man.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. You want to go on a 9G turn? Like, get fucked.
That's how I frankly quickly lost interest in hardcore aerobatic stuff like that. And for me, it wasn't so much the positive. I could handle the pushing down the positive Gs. It was the negative stuff.
Right.
Where you're going on the outside of the loop, or you're going on the outside of the roll. That just is not pleasant for me. I don't enjoy that at all.
No. So I sat on that story for
20 years.
Like,
this is a recent fucking. This recently came out.
oh, dude, my parents haven't seen all my tattoos. Like,
true story.
I buried that one fucking deep, and it came out. I think I'd been drinking, and it came out. My parents were both like, "What?" And my dad's like, he calls Orion his other son.
Yeah.
And he's like, "My other son did that to you?" I'm like, "Yeah, why'd you call him up?"
Why don't you fucking call him? Yeah.
I was a hapless victim. He took advantage of me, Daddy.
Yeah. Go yell at him.
Help me, Daddy. No, that was fun. It was a lot of fun.
So how many friends did you take up to do that kind of shit? Was it fucking Jack and Dunn, or is there other people out there terrified to fly because of you?
Yeah, who else have you hurt?
I'll tell you what, though. Me, in my 20s, if I could fly, the girls that would just flock to an airplane would probably be just...
I appreciate your optimism.
Yeah. It's like I got a nice car, man, but we can get there faster.
I know several people with their pilot's license, and they're not exactly killing the game.
We like to say that pilots are a terrible lot that when around airplanes talk about nothing but women, and when around women talk about nothing but airplanes.
100%. All right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that is...
Yeah.
It's like us in hunting. We hear about somebody that hunts, we're like, ooh, you hunt? My wife's like, God damn it.
Yeah, she's like, shut the fuck up.
It's time to fucking go.
Yeah. Ooh, is there a spa near here?
Oh, exactly. And it's funny, I remember when you started your whole your whole firefighting enterprise, and you talking about it, and I remember thinking to myself, like, that's insane. Because you think about guys that come out of like Vietnam, like helicopter pilots came out of Vietnam. They're the guys that were flying police helicopters. Right. And they're the guys that were flying helicopters that were filming stuff, and they were 100 feet off the deck, and they were maniacs. And I'm like, knowing Orion he's incredibly intelligent. Obviously, you can tell he's incredibly well-spoken, very methodical. And in my mind, guys that are flying fire tankers are just like,
yeah, bro,
like 50 feet off the deck. Just
got a cigarette in your lip and a whiskey in the fucking cup holder. Like, let's fucking go, boys.
Yeah, they're dumping beer cans and retardant on fire, and they're just like, woo. They wear a cowboy hat. Yeah. That I don't know why. Yeah. That was the image of that in my
mind. With nothing underneath them.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. I was like, this is a different venue for your typical behavior, buddy.
Yeah. And he's like, little did you know I'm doing math the whole time, motherfucker.
Yeah. But you were pretty busy this last season.
Yeah. This past season kept us going. Basically, from the beginning of June till about the end of July, I did as much in that time frame as I did the 2 seasons combined.
Really?
Yeah, previous 2 seasons combined on that.
Is your camp up north? Are you still out that way towards Springville and stuff?
No, so I never operated. I mean, I did pick up retardant out of that base this year. I was a little further north up in the Hollister area.
Oh, were you really? Okay.
Yeah. So that was my base for the year. Again, it's a seniority based thing. Yeah. So it's, the senior guys get to pick their bases that they want first, and I just have to wait in line and, hope to find myself either further south or eventually, once we make a decision to relocate and, move to a base.
Yeah. Well, because you could do that, right? I mean, okay.
Do you have any ambitions to fly that big DC-10?
10 tanker? No, not really. They're on a federal contract, and so they're going, all across the country at any given point.
Okay.
And they'll also contract with other international things too. So sometimes you'll see them working down in Chile. And
oh wow.
Yeah. So I mean, like right now, most of the large tankers that you saw domestically on federal contracts, they're either in Western Australia fighting fire now, or they're down in Chile further south America, Argentina, fighting fire right now during what was to be our off season.
So it's one of those fucking, hey, pack a bag.
Yeah.
See when we see you.
Kiss your wife goodbye. Here we go.
Yeah. So for me, the contract that I work is with the state of California, and so I like to. I like the footprint here. Keeps us in. We have a fire season at least. We got an off season where you can decompress.
Right.
Well, what's funny too is Orion commutes in an airplane.
Yeah.
Because I talked to him.
He doesn't drive to work.
No.
But I talked to him.
Fucking peasants.
I'm like, dude, what if you... Because you can be in... There's San Bernardino. There's Hemet Ryan. There's...
Yeah, so, I mean, throughout the state, I mean, you've got reload bases from Ramona, Hemet, San Bernardino, Santa Maria, Lancaster, Paso Robles, Porterville, Fresno, Hollister, Redding, McClellan.
Jesus.
Chester, Grass Valley, Columbia, Sonoma, Ukiah. I mean, there's probably, if you counted them all out, even with the temporary bases they open up, there's probably close to 16 reload bases in the state.
So I was asking him, I'm like, what if you get put on one of the other bases? He goes, Jack, I've got a Mooney, which is
it's a 4-place single engine airplane.
And it's fucking hot rod, one, right? Yeah. It's the fast one.
It's not as fast as they come, but it gets long. I talk about it. It's it's kind of like a Prius, right? It'll keep up at freeway speeds, but it sips gas.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
But
So
he's
it's
like-
the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's funny because he goes, well, I bought a trailer, and he goes, I take the trailer up on the first weekend and drive home,
Park it there, yeah.
and then I just fly the Mooney, and then I just stay in my camper trailer for the season, and I just fly home.
So realistically, you could live anywhere you wanted because you fly in.
Yeah.
And you know your schedule ahead of time, so you know when you need to be back.
Yeah, and even one of my coworkers that I worked with this season, he actually commutes out of Fairbanks, Alaska.
Really?
Yeah, the airline's down. I mean, he's not going to fly as
No,
a person
no.
in an
Yeah,
airplane.
yeah.
But yeah, he comes down and from Fairbanks, works his 10-day block of work, and then goes home to Alaska. So except September, he takes a block off and goes moose hunting. So
You told me this guy shot a moose 72-inch wide paddle.
yes,
Does he want to take us?
Does
that's
he
the benefit of being an Alaska resident,
yeah, they got all the perks, man.
How many friends does he have?
right?
Yeah.
Does he want two
Does
more?
he need two more? Tell him you're on this podcast.
Yeah. Does he like podcasts?
hey, Moose Hunter, firefighter guy.
Yeah. We have 6,000 followers on Instagram. We're kind of a big deal.
Yeah. I want to come hunting in Alaska with you.
We're influencers. I can't even say.
Yeah. No, that'd be a good time. That'd be fun. Alaska was beautiful when we went. It was like just different than anything I've ever experienced. The days were fucking forever long,
Oh my god.
but the nights were calm and just beautiful. It was like I could see the allure to Alaska. I could see why people would live there.
I think people get fed up with all this.
Yeah, there's no traffic ever.
Oh god, no. It's so funny too. We were driving along and we pulled up to a gas station and it's like daylight out. And we pull up and the woman's closing up and we're like, hey, can we grab some snacks or something? She's like, no, I'm closing up. We're like, why are you closing up? She goes, it's 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's 4 p.m. here.
Yeah, it looked like the middle of the fucking day.
And we all had to check our phones and go, oh, well, we're going to go pee behind your building then. And then we'll
We're gonna
carry
pee
on.
everywhere around here. Sorry.
So we'll make a funny jump here and it's very relevant to what's happening now. So Orion has his master's degree.
Yes, he does.
So it's emergency management and homeland security.
Yes.
Were you thinking that you were going to go a different way before you started flying planes, or was that kind of always your goal?
He did. He did. He
did,
had
okay.
I know.
So you wanted to go homeland that route, or
No, so a couple of things. I hate painting myself into a corner,
naturally?
and I don't sit still well.
So flying is kind of rough for you.
Well, I mean, just in the sense that I've got to be actively doing something.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, I was at the airlines, and it was good. I mean, I was based at home. I wasn't commuting across country. I could drive to Los Angeles to go to work, and I was sitting on call at home, and I was working one 4-day trip a month.
Okay.
And I think it was a Facebook targeted ad that popped up for ASU online master's programs.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. So I jump into this, and I turn to my wife and says, I think I'm going to go back to school. And at this point, I had my bachelor's done, and she looks at me and says, really? Says, yeah, I got this thing that popped up for emergency management and homeland security, and this seems kind of interesting. And I was doing a lot of volunteer work for our union at that point, from the security committees, work and some of the airline security work. And I says, this sounds kind of interesting.
I wonder what your algorithm looks like, because mine's never popped up that.
It's gotten much darker.
All right, then. Just 10 days on, 5 days off. Leaves you time to yourself. The idle hands, you know what they say.
Your FBI agent's like sending you subtle hints, like, fucking, here you go. How about national security, bud? How about this? How about that? Okay.
So, yeah, I no kidding, jumped into my master's program because I was home bored. And just gave me an excuse to take a textbook on a laptop and go park at a coffee shop and work on papers.
Yeah, okay.
So,
But
yeah.
we want to talk specifically about your master's thesis.
Yes.
And give us a time frame.
So I finished my master's program in 2018. So I wrote this thesis during the fall of 2018.
Okay.
And what I did was I wrote a risk assessment of small UAS drones,
Okay.
I think hobby-sized drones, on aircraft, on particularly airliners. And how do we quantify this risk that's associated with these things? And what are the threat vectors associated with it? Right. What was kind of terrifying, honestly, at that point in time. So in 2018, so we're talking 6 years ago, there was an assessment that 1 in 5 drone operations posed an unmitigated risk to aviation.
No shit.
So again, that was 6 years ago, right? And basically, you could sort of identify threat vectors as far as what I kind of termed as 3 different paths: either the clueless, careless, or criminal.
Right. Yeah, because you deal with all 3.
Yep, absolutely. We dealt with all 3, right? The clueless guys just don't know any better, right? The careless guys think like, yeah, I know this is a problem, but screw it, I don't really care. Yeah. And then the criminal aspect of it is there's intention, right? And again, criminal doesn't necessarily have to mean that I need to hit an airplane. It can simply be just a disruption event. Look at what happened at Gatwick. I think that was end of 2017, early 2018, London Gatwick. They shut the airport down there with 3 drones for 36 hours. They literally just flew them over, made them visible to the tower, and they stopped all operations at London Gatwick with just 3 drones, and it wasn't continuous operations with them.
Really?
Yeah. So it was just literally just an airspace disruption.
Because they wanted to see if they could.
Absolutely.
Well, but you got to think too. So I was on the Loma Linda Hospital project.
Yeah.
And that's considered an unmanned airport because they have a heliport. And we were doing some pretty big stuff, and people wanted to fly drones, and they were like, absolutely not. You cannot fly drones here because there is no tower, there is no radar, there is no anything. There's just a heliport that you can land on in an emergency.
Yep. So what they've actually done, they've done a fairly good job with that, is they've incorporated geofencing into the new technology.
Okay.
To where the drones are now smart enough to realize that I'm within a quarter mile of a heliport. You can't even turn me on and operate right now.
Oh, it's restricted airspace. They understand where restricted airspace is.
They have built-in geofencing now in that technology.
For the legal ones, but people are, I'm sure,
the homebrew ones, are still capable of anything with it.
And those are going to be the ones that are going to be continued problems.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the same thing with like guns you build at home that nobody can track. It's the same thing. It's how you going to monitor this? How you going to fucking tell me what I can do? It's mine. I built it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But a turbine motor, the turbine blades are so sensitive. If you eat a drone...
Yeah. Well, if you eat a bird, you're going down.
Well, yeah,
you're not going down, but that motor's
most likely
gone.
You're going to have to secure that engine, right? You're going to have to secure that motor, put the fire out, deal what you need to, and now land this thing single engine, right? Not a big deal. Honestly, people joke about the fact that like, oh yeah, we heard this pop and a bang on an airliner, and all of a sudden the captain comes on and says, yeah, well, we just lost this engine. We're going to take some time. Going, yeah, it should be that cool and collected, right? Right. That's the training that the pilots have gone through at that point.
Yeah, you should know that you can. You should know the capabilities of the plane that you're flying. Like you should know the capability of the car that you're driving.
Yeah, absolutely. But I look at it from a bigger perspective, right? You want to create a real disruption event. Take a half dozen drone operators and start flying them over Teterboro, LaGuardia, Kennedy, and Newark, and shut those airports down and look at the scatter that everybody's got to divert to and saturate the eastern seaboard.
Well, but too, if you look at like the drone displays that they do now, where they send 1,000 drones up,
all computer
it's all synchronized, and they do a fireworks show, or it's a dragon, or it's a butterfly, it's a whatever. I can't imagine if you did a coordinated
you fly through something like that
drone disbursement and just sent them off to dude. But you got to think here by us, we've got LAX, John Wayne, and Ontario International Airport. You could send drones out, and those 3 within a 75-mile radius?
No, it's not even that. It's about 40 miles.
Yeah. And what the disruption you can cause from that in LAX.
Yeah. Is everybody. There's a plane landing in LAX every 30 fucking seconds.
Well, we're coming up on Christmas, and there's supposed to be, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people coming through LAX. They say, too, that there's, I heard it today, there's 400 to 500,000 people are in the air at all times?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. If you take a look at it, on any given day, you'll probably have about, I even lost count of what the emplanements were out of Los Angeles.
Well, the skies are never empty.
No.
There's always, they're always going.
Yeah.
Since they figured out how to fly, somebody's been in flight.
Well, an airplane sitting on the ground doesn't make money.
Right. Yeah. 100%. All right, back to your thesis. So,
but did you talk too about weaponizing drones in your thesis?
Well, there's always that risk assessment too with it, right? You've got to take a look to see what the threat vectors are, what the capabilities are with them. Yeah, I mean, you've got the capacity to lift it, but again, that creates bigger, probably logistical headaches to probably, deploy something like that, from, a non-sponsored actor, right? A terrorist, terrorist act, something along those lines is going to be a little more difficult to actually deploy it from a weaponized standpoint. But yeah, I mean, I think really probably the bigger one we're still dealing with is probably just this disruption event right now.
Well, have you seen the war footage from Ukraine? They're dropping like grenades and fucking all kinds of stuff, which is fucking terrifying because that drone can fucking outmaneuver you 1,000-ton one, and they are just, oh, look at that hole. Poof, good night.
Yep.
Like it is a new way of warfare.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, you saw those first coming out in the Syria conflicts back in 2017.
Really?
That capability was already. I mean, it's off the shelf capability that you're talking about.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Interesting juxtaposition. So when they started aerial warfare, when they started it, it's very similar to this. There were pilots that had grenades, and they would fly their planes, and we're talking early wars.
World War I, open cockpit biplanes.
Open cockpit, and they had grenades, and they would essentially open the pin, and they were just dropping this stuff by hand. So now fast forward 100 years almost, and now you're just dropping it mechanically from a certain distance. But it's the same ideology. You have a self-propelled detonation device that you are just kind of dropping, and you have obviously better technology to do it, but that's how they did it back in the day.
Yeah.
Your guy behind you had a box of grenades, and you're flying, Orion's flying, and I'm behind him pulling pins and dropping grenades as we're flying by. That was early air attack, and now they're doing it with drones the same way.
Fucking wild.
But it's interesting, too, because you've seen all the stuff now with the giant, I mean, the drones that they're saying that are flying over, like, New Jersey. They said they've even had some over here.
So they're as big as a Volkswagen.
Yeah, they're 6x12. So,
and they've been in New Jersey for a while.
Why Jersey? I get it that it's Eastern Seaboard, but like forget about it. Yeah. Right? Like all I think hey, there's fucking the guy
walking over here.
Look at all the gel in this Guido's hair. Like, I don't know. I can't take that seriously. That's probably the distractionary part of it. But.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about states with the strictest gun laws, New Jersey's probably one of them. So if you think, hey, if it's going to be an attack, and you're patterning people, and you're seeing how people react to you, and if they're nonchalant, just don't give a fuck about you, then you change it up a little bit, and they don't notice. Change it up a little bit, they don't notice. New Jersey's one of those places where if you fucking land people, you're not going to get much resistance.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
They have really strict gun laws.
Yeah.
So them, New York, but I don't see anybody being dumb enough to come to war here.
The Emperor of Japan in World War II said no one will ever invade the United States because behind every blade of grass there is a gun.
Now there's two, motherfucker.
Because we burn off most of the grass in the state.
Exactly.
Yeah. What grass? Now there's just a bunch of fucking heads.
Yeah, don't come to California. Don't go to the Midwest either.
Yeah. No, there's this.
If you want to start somewhere, you got to fucking really pick and choose.
We digress. But I remember when you were writing that thesis, and I remember talking to you while you went to school, because I'm a Sun Devil. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing, too, is Orion has done most of the things in our lives before me. He got married before me. He got married 6 days before me.
Well, you didn't. You weren't engaged very long, bud.
No. But it's funny. It's just funny. He was married 6 days before me.
Okay.
His daughter, Kendall, my goddaughter, my first goddaughter, is 20 days older than my oldest daughter, Ella. But I was a Sun Devil before him.
Yep. You finished your bachelor's degree before I did.
Yep. I finished my bachelor's degree before him, and I shot big game animals before he did.
How's your master's looking?
You know what? Fucking behind.
What's your thesis going to be on?
About friendships. How much we put too much weight on them. I'm a lone wolf now, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I'm going to start my own podcast.
Good luck.
Can I borrow this room?
And JJ. Somebody's got to edit this shit.
No, but it's been a fun journey to be Orion's friend and to watch him and to go through this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting, and it seems so interesting from what I do, and so alien and so different. And it's funny when he talks about dropping retardant on a fire. And again, like I said, like I'm thinking like cowboy boots, feet on the dash, pulling the stick up 50 feet off the deck like a fucking maniac.
I've seen The Expendables. I know how you fly.
Exactly. No, that's what I'm
Smoking a
thinking
cigar.
too. Like, yeah, dude, you're fucking the windows open, the side windows open for whatever reason. Like,
Just fuck it. Let's go.
so it's interesting to hear how much science actually goes behind it, and the fact that you're doing that alone. I still thought you were a pilot, co-pilot. You had somebody like with you when you were going and doing these bombing runs.
No, so as a trainee, we've got an instructor. It's with us, flying with us until we've gone through our task book and met the exposure that we need to and demonstrated the capability to handle the aircraft on our own. I mean, towards the end of that training, right, they should be sitting there and not doing anything.
Right.
And a lot of that comes into the fact that what you realize after the fact is that you're learning to become self-critical,
Okay.
and be able to look back going, there's probably a better way to have done that, right?
Yeah.
And so you start to develop that skill set. So, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the plane is set up to be a one-pilot show.
Which is just wild. That seems like so much
That
responsibility.
is a lot of plane. That is a lot of plane.
And you were telling me this last season too. You were like doing some flights for like 8 hours. You would land, run out of the plane, go to the bathroom, get a bottle of water while they were loading retardant in your plane, and jump back in and go.
Yeah, so our operation limits is 7 hours of flight time per day, right?
Okay.
But that doesn't necessarily mean time in seat. That means time wheels off the ground, wheels on the ground.
Yeah, that's a very
The slippery slope.
that's a very government thing to do.
Yes.
Like, hey, no, you can sit in that fucking seat for 12 hours. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
If you're not flying, it doesn't matter.
That doesn't count at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had some going fires. I mean, we had one fire that started within, I don't want to say about 20, 25 miles of our base. So we were making 15-minute turns.
Yeah.
And, I was putting in 8 drops of retardant per fuel cycle.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm delivering almost 10,000 gallons of retardant on this fire in a fuel cycle.
Yeah.
And same thing. Yeah, you shut, you finally get to the fuel cycle. You shut down. It's enough time to go use the restroom, put on, 300 gallons of gas, get back to work.
Damn.
Dang.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. That'd be so cool. You got the coolest job, bud.
Well, it's funny. I'll never forget. Just recently we were talking and Orion goes, "This is the fucking greatest job ever."
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, but I fucking believe it.
I think the greatest job for you. For me, no. For you, yes. I'm proud of you. I love you. It's awesome to see you be happy and succeed in that. That's your thing.
But you're a crew of one. You don't have to worry about anybody else bitching. Nobody, I got to pee, man. I got to do this. I got to, hey, man, I'll be right back. I got to, like, no, it's you. Like, it's you up there fucking doing your thing. Nobody distracting you. Nobody telling you, like, hey, man, I don't think you should release that right now. Or fucking, hey, man, I think that was a little short or a little low or a little this. Or like, no.
But so that's the funny thing, right? That's where you become self-critical and all of that.
Right.
Right? It's like I come on up and I make a drop and I expect to drop critique from the firefighter that's in the spot plane, the air attack platform above me. I expect them to tell me, hey, man, that was a half a load early and you had a two wingspans left to right drift. Right? The last thing I want to hear when I make a drop is going, that's not really what I wanted, but I'll make it work. That gives me nothing meaningful to go back and actually fix this next time. I need you to be brutally honest. What happened with that retardant so that I can fix it next time I come back.
Yeah, because I'm coming right fucking back, bud.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, too, to hear my dad, to hear Senior, and Orion talk because they were both pilots. So they started pilot talk, and I just sit, like, I then assume mushroom seat, hands under ass, and just sit there quietly. I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. But when we were first talking about Orion becoming a pilot, it was actually dropping a significant weight in a short period of time. You start talking about the dynamics that, okay, well, you drop. How much does 1,000 gallons of retardant weigh?
It's about 8,500 pounds.
So you drop it, and how quick does it come out?
4 or 5 seconds.
So
it's fucking pumping and dumping. Okay.
So in my mind, very limited, obviously, pilot knowledge, and talk to my dad. You drop 8,000 pounds of weight. I think the airplane's gonna just skyrocket.
Yeah.
Right. Just come way up. So it's funny to hear Senior talk to Orion here about like, well, what is that like? His dad's dropped napalm. he's dropped
Burn,
some other
motherfucker.
shit. But 8,000 pounds in 4 seconds, you would think that's a huge uplift. And to listen to them talk about the science behind it is pretty
This
wild.
probably doesn't going to translate well here, but take a look at this. This is one of the drops that I made on a fire this year. That's from the firefighter's ground perspective there.
That looks right here off Temescal.
That was actually up east of San Jose.
Okay, so you're hitting pretty much the same pattern though.
Yeah.
And that's what they want. They want a heavy field, heavy cover to slow it down, right? Because what you said is you're buying time.
Yeah, and that's it. I'm trying to reinforce that line so they can get in there and, get a hold of the fire, get ahead of it.
And I'm sure the retardant works well, but it's not a cure-all, right? I mean, it is what it's exactly what it says. But as soon as the fire gets hot enough and pushes close enough, it's going to burn right through it.
Yeah,
Like you said, it's time.
It's time.
You're just buying them time.
Yeah. So it's actually interesting if we deploy the retardant correctly, it coats the vegetation on all sides.
Okay.
We want to drop at a height to where there's no forward motion.
Okay.
Because we want it to rain down like heavy rain.
Right. Okay.
That's kind of the perspective that we're looking at. So we actually target about 150 feet above the top of the vegetation.
Okay.
That's where that motion stops because we're dropping about 120 knots. And the retardant rains down. It coats everything.
Right.
The reason is because what I want the fire to do is I want the fire to run up to that, and because it's a phosphorus phos check, it's basically it's a fertilizer.
Okay.
It's a salt-based fertilizer, right?
Okay.
And it doesn't burn; it chars.
Okay.
So that's why it slows the forward motion down.
Got it. Okay.
There's some of the action there with the moisture in there that cools the fire down, that slows it down that way. But it's that salt-based chemical reaction where it's charring the vegetation now as opposed to burning the vegetation.
Okay.
Now, if I drop too low and that grass mats over, it's not coated underneath. And you'll see that.
Right.
You'll see where the fire burns underneath the retardant and gets out of the line.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening with it, depending upon the time, right? Everything else is that if you're trying to maybe check a running finger of the fire and you V it off and you put some retardant, it's kind of, a catcher's mitt right up there.
Okay.
If it's been a low drop, you'll see the fire run up to it. It kind of slows down and springs up out of it. And you'll see these bright red chevrons going up the slope in the middle of the black trying to catch this fire, and we call them chevrons of shame that are running up the slope there.
Oh, shit. Do you guys talk shit on the radio, too? Like, hey, man, who did that last drop? You fucked this up.
No, that's afterwards at the base. We try to keep it professional on the radio.
over some waters.
Yeah.
Well, we're in this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, not going to talk too much to you yet.
But honestly, that's got to be part of it, though, too, is we got to watch out for each other.
Right.
It's like, hey, man, what was that drop about? What was going on there?
Yeah.
What was your thought process? Oh, okay, yeah, now I get why you did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right. I probably didn't need to do that drop.
I had my finger on the button and tried not to shit on myself.
Yeah, but if you're a team, you're trying to tandemly.
Right, yeah, because you guys are.
Yeah.
You're drawing a line around it.
Trying to. Yeah, that's ultimately we're trying to. The terms you box the fire in, right? Yeah.
What a wild concept.
And I've seen so on the news a couple of years back, there was fires back here, like by the 241, and they dropped retardant on a house.
Oh yeah,
and they had video of it, and that shit comes down like a ton of bricks. It is not a soft fucking.
No,
it is not a soft thing that they're dropping out of the sky.
It's got gelling agents that are in there to sort of hold it together to kind of help sure that it coats everything.
Okay.
Because the idea is, right, if I'm dropping 150 feet over the top of the vegetation, if I'm dropping in tall timber or trees, I'm 150 feet above the top of the trees. It might be 75 to 100 feet tall, and I want it to slide down, and coat all the vegetation that way, all the way around.
And you're dropping thousands of gallons and thousands of pounds of this liquid.
1,000 pounds.
It is.
It's like
you don't want to get hit by it.
No, and that's the whole thing, right? I mean,
it's
that's
like paper mache.
Yeah, I mean, almost, right? It's a little more of a liquid consistency like that, but it holds together, right? And so that's the whole thing. It's like, man, the last thing I want to do is hit a firefighter on the line.
Right.
I'll tell you what, somebody back when I worked at the news channel painted my fucking camera crew. And they came back and they were pink.
Oh, yeah.
And the fucking camera was pink and the footage was amazing until that pink phosphorus hit them. And they came in, and I mean, they were
not going to catch on fire. You might try though.
you try. We had to send the camera back to have it completely rebuilt. Ooh. But my guys, it was like, go home. I hope that washes off in the shower because they were pink from fucking notch to crotch.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it will absolutely coat it because that's what it's supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
And so again, you come around this fire line here, right? And you're expecting this guy to up here to tell you, because I might be working around smoke, right? I might not see the line until I'm right on it. And I'm expecting him to tell me, hey, the line's clear, you're clear to drop. So that's the signal that everybody stepped off the line, right? And where I want this retardant here, there's nobody down there that, you should be, coming into a problem with, hurting, right?
Right.
So obviously that's where some of this timing stuff comes on in. You might see a dozer working across the hill going, hey, start from the dozer, take it down the slope. There may be some pink dozers running around.
Well, it's not an exact science.
So I got one for you. You ready for this? And you probably already thought about this if there is. You think there's a better compound that you could use?
Right now, I don't think so.
Do you think that there's other chemical properties that you might want to see in the future that help out, do something maybe a little different, or buy you more time, or is there a different compound that you think you could come up with to help?
I don't know, because the problem is you got to think about a multitude of things with it, right? I mean, right now if we're definitely dropping fertilizer, it's not. I was going to
say, if it's phosphorus driven, it's fertilizer.
Yeah, it's not that detrimental.
It's biodegradable.
Right, it's biodegradable. Yeah, so it's not as terrible for the environment because you're dropping a lot.
But again, we're trying to keep it out of the waterways. We're not supposed to. I think 300 to 500 feet within the nearest water. We were supposed to keep it clear of that. I don't want it to end up in a lake or a river or anything else along those lines. I mean, it's salt, right? You put enough concentration of salt, kills the fish.
Kills everything,
Yeah.
Then you suck them up in the tanker.
Yeah, and then you put them in a scuba diver.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Then we're back in this myth situation.
But even at that, I mean, you start changing the chemical compound. Now you got to think about, the corrosive properties inside an aluminum tank.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because, and that's
you corrode that out. You're talking about wasting more money than you're making on that shit.
Well, I mean, it could be detrimental to the operation of the aircraft.
Right.
So, I mean, and that's the thing, is they've played with different things, and there's a whole outfit that the Forest Service has up in Boise that actually tests different ideas with retardant, and one of the tests they do is wild. They actually take... I forget exactly what they're called, but they're basically foot-long strips of aluminum. They're aircraft-grade aluminum, and they put them in the retardant.
Oh, it's an ingot.
Yeah, an ingot, right?
Yeah.
And they put them in the retardant, and they let them sit in the retardant, and they pull them out every week and see what kind of corrosion they get out of it.
Really?
One of the more recent ones they tested that failed the test, they pulled out, and they had severe intergranular corrosion that happened within just a matter of a few weeks of contact with this retardant mix.
Because most of your airframe is
aluminum.
Aluminum to keep the weight down.
Yeah.
So they are looking for new compounds.
Sure, they're
always.
trying. Yeah, they're trying.
Sure, it's always evolving, but what they have now is
it's effective. It does a good job. Okay. It's a lot better than the borate chemicals that they were using.
Right.
I mean, you can still see some of the old burn scars where they drop borate that still stain the rocks. That stuff will never go away from the iron oxide that's in there.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, with the product they have now, I mean, it does a reasonably good job with it. There's a couple of different variations, whether it shows up to the base in a powdered form and they add water to mix it, or they showed up in a concentrated gel form and they add the water to mix it.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, most of the stuff when you show up to bases, it comes in one of two ways right now. As you see these big, like those Home Depot gravel bags, but filled with the powder, right? Okay. And then we just mix that up, and that mixes 2,000 gallons of retardant.
Oh shit!
Right, and then just put in the mix tanks and upload it into the tanker, or they get it in a big silo delivery, and they've got a giant silo of powder that they can just run through the mix plant and add water to it.
Huh. The things people come up with.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's one of those things, man, that like I like to think I think of a lot of good ideas and I have a lot of thoughts. But how to build a compound that won't corrode your fucking airplanes and will still do its job and be biodegradable and check all these fucking things. And you're in California, so you got to be green and fucking blah, 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 blah. Like, it's got to fucking check. It's got to check a million boxes, and they fucking made it.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're still working on new stuff. Yeah. Right? They're still playing with new stuff. They had at one point, they had these gelling agents for water. apparently when it was, it was before my time getting aerial firefighting, but you'll see some of the drops on it where it comes out blue. And I think the product was called like liquid ice at one point. And the idea was it was a gelling compound. So it was a water drop, not a retardant drop.
Okay.
But it would basically, I guess water gravy, for lack of a better term, would kind of cling to everything. So it had to burn off all this water before the vegetation could ignite. It wasn't a charring action. It was a much more of a direct attack drop on there. And talking to some of the pilots that have dropped it, they said it was really effective, but it was very finicky in terms of the mixing ratios. If you didn't mix it at the right consistency, it had to be mixed, just before loading into the plane. It couldn't sit in the plane loaded. So there was definitely some operational constraints when they were trying to play with that. I think Washington State a couple years ago was trying to play with some of that. And you can see some YouTube drops where they're dropping, blue retardant, and what it is it's a water enhancer is what they call it.
So the only color that it comes in is that pink?
Yeah. So there's a couple different shades of pink that it comes in. Last year, there was one that's much more of a brighter, almost magenta fuchsia color that was getting dropped, and that was a new product that they were trying out. That some of the operators were going through a Forest Service testing product on it. It was effective. It did a good job. I don't necessarily know what the long-term process was on it. They're still evaluating that. But it dropped a different color pink. But yeah, generally retardant needs to drop pink. Water enhancers drop either blue or white if it's a foaming agent. So like the scoopers that are up here that LA County contracts with, they'll actually take off with a foaming agent in there. So they'll dip in the water, right?
Do they do like AFFF still? Are they still using that?
No, they've gone away from that. They're the carcinogenic properties of that stuff.
Yeah, it was high. I was playing with that one in the Navy. Now there's all the ads like, did you ever? I was like, all the time.
Right. What was it, Trimax?
Like, fuck, man.
Yeah. But no, so, I mean, I've seen it where I was an air attack on a Catalina fire, and the scoopers showed up, and they had foam on board. And it, no kidding, looked like, it was fire retardant foam that laid down, but it was a water mixture, right? Just a water enhancer. It looked like almost an overloaded washing machine that they dropped on Catalina Island.
Oh, shit.
And it took for a second for all this stuff kind of dissipate, but it did a good job of taking the heat out of the fire.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is it the phosphorus that makes it pink?
No, it's a coloring agent that they put into it.
Oh, they actually do that. Okay.
Yeah, it's intentional so that you can see where it lines out.
Yeah.
And
so bright colors is needed.
So for us, it's like fucking upside down marking paint.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, and that's it, right? So that way I can see where this line is. I can see where the ties are. I can see, hey, there's a gap in that line of retardant right there, right? I want to have that color.
Yeah.
So I come back on, hey, man, the fire's making a run towards this shoulder here. We got a gap in the retardant, fill in the gap. Okay. That makes that target description is that much faster for me to show on up and know where I need to put my plane in place to fill in that gap, as opposed to, hey, they didn't get all the way up to that rock and tree up here. Which rock and tree?
Which still blows my mind about how you know when to release that shit. I mean, I understand that you're flying low. Like ridiculously low.
Well, it's not really as low as you think.
Sure it is. If I can see the airplane, it's pretty low.
So we show up to a fire as a tanker. We'll show up at 1,500 feet above the fire.
Okay.
That's the first survey altitude. That's called our orbit altitude.
Right. So you get a good picture.
Yeah, we get a good picture of it. 1,000 feet above us at 2,500 feet is our air tactical, is our ATGS.
Okay.
He's giving that overall view, right? And probably the hardest thing is understanding the description that he's giving us.
Okay.
Right? Because it's all perspective, biases, and everything else that we're dealing with, right? Okay. So we try to get everybody on the same sheet of music. He says, hey, they'll orient us to the fire, say, hey, here's the origin, here's the direction it's burning. And as soon as I know that, I now understand going, am I looking left flank, right flank, shoulder, head, where am I attacking this fire?
Okay.
And based upon that, he'll give me a drop description. He'll say, if you go up to the right shoulder, we got a house, I need structure protection in front of that house on the right shoulder.
Okay.
Great. Now I know how to orient myself to the fire where he wants the retardant drop.
So is that their number one priority? Is structures?
It's
people?
It's all situational. But yeah, if we've got structure or life threatened, right, that's going to be the first priority.
Okay.
The state of California has got actually an interesting mission in the sense that they want to try to contain the majority of their fires. I'm talking 95% of their fires to 10 acres or less.
Really?
Yeah. We always joke at the base for a unit that we are doing our job if you guys never heard about the fire that we put out that day.
No shit. I'm sure there's fires all the time.
There was a fire behind us and the wind was blowing 40 miles an hour the other night.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they hit it, Lake Matthews, there's constantly stuff that's burning up there, Temescal Canyon, But again, we're doing our job if, you guys never hear about that fire.
Yeah. So while you guys are flying, they're diverting out of your airspace, so you have maneuverability in there. Is that how that works?
So not that they're diverting out there, but they're giving us that additional vantage point to make sure that nobody's down there and operating, right? So once they give us that target description and I understand my drop pattern, then I can leave that orbit altitude, go down to 1,000 feet, and now I own the airspace between 1,000 feet and 150 feet above the vegetation. That is now all of my airspace. You make sure the copters are out of the airspace there. I can go to work and do what I need to do.
Right, so they tell like the news helicopters and shit like,
oh, yeah,
hey,
absolutely.
you're getting the fuck out of the way.
They actually, all the news helicopters, all the media is actually above everybody.
Really?
Their cameras are so good that it looks like they're down low level there, but they're 5,000 or 6,000 feet above the incident.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
But, so here's the funny one. So I was listening to an incident that was happening locally here. And, we listened to the chatter on the radio because we want to maintain that situational awareness, going, what's going on around us? Maybe I'm going to get sent to this fire, not what's happening. And all of a sudden we start hearing talk about, hey, hold the copters out, keep the tankers in orbit. We need to figure out what's going on. And there was discussion about a drone showing up in the fire. So we're going, oh, shit, we can't get a tanker down low here. We're not going to put copters on in. Right. What's going on with this drone? Who's the guy that's filming this fire? What's happening here? And all of a sudden you start hearing, okay, yeah, bring the copters in. Yeah, okay, we're going to start dropping tankers and everything else. The drone was a seagull.
They're kind of far from the ocean, bud.
Yeah, what the fuck are you doing here?
A little hot here for your liking, sir.
I'm lost. Help me. Mine.
Mine. Not yours. Not yours, bud.
Oh, man.
But I've had the other ones, too, where he showed up to a fire even recently, and our battalion chief showed up and says, yeah, you know what? I don't want you orbiting here because this is Condor area. Go about 4 miles east of here and wait.
Oh, jeez. Fucking condors. Well, what do you think, man? You think we touch on some airline securities, or you think we put this one to bed?
I think we put this one to bed. I think Orion has done a fantastic job.
Orion, how long do you think you've been here?
Hour and a half.
Yeah, about an hour and 33 minutes we've been recording.
Yeah, do you seriously ask this guy that does all these mathematic equations and vectors?
He's all judging by the light. And
he's like, the light and you in this song, it's an hour and 33 minutes.
I'm just looking how far down that bottle of bourbon's gone.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's... if you would have kept drinking...
if you would have kept drinking, I'd have drunk harder, and we'd have gone through this motherfucker.
This conversation would have been very different.
Yeah, 4 hours. 4 hours long, yeah.
And I had to listen back to it on when I heard it, and I'm like, Jack, shut up. Shut up, you're so drunk. Shut up, Jack.
I can hear when I'm a little tipsy.
With Fowler, I was listening to it, and I was like, I can't. It made me uncomfortable to hear my own voice. Because I'm like, you're a piece of garbage. You need to stop.
We drank a lot that day.
We did, whatever.
We always drink a lot with Chris.
Let's do one of our favorite things, our FHFO, Friends Help Friends Out.
Yes.
And we're going to start with Laurel with Canyon Bird Coffee.
Yes. We are going to try that.
On a Sunday morning.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it on Sunday.
Okay.
I think we have nothing to do. You'll probably go to the gym, and then you can come over and brew some coffee.
Yeah, by the time I get back, you'll be up.
Yeah.
You'll be a person.
Stroke of 10:30.
the stroke of brunch.
Yeah.
Jerett will be up.
Yeah, we'll have the girls get together and drink champagne, and we'll come up here and drink some coffee.
They're like, you guys just had coffee. Why are you so drunk? Why don't you mind your own business?
I'm fucking excited.
Shout out to Laurel. I'm gonna need some more of that coffee.
Yeah,
coffee. Air quote coffee.
Yeah, she's gonna sponsor that show since she dropped us those. We'll make sure to shout her out a ton on that one.
Oh, absolutely. Common shit. Tina's
doing well.
Doing well. She's doing some podcastery.
Yeah,
she's having some fun with it.
Hey! Get everybody on the same mic level, please.
Yes, Tina.
Tina, you're killing me.
Equalization.
Yeah, come on, girl.
And her brother though, Tattoo Spooky.
Spooky's doing well.
Dude, and Orion has a tanker tattoo.
Yeah?
And fresh ink on it, too.
Oh, did you get some? Yeah. Oh, he's going to show us.
Uh-oh, you guys aren't going to be able to see.
And he's a sexy man.
Ooh. Orion's tatted the fuck up.
All right. Yeah, buddy. That's fucking fantastic. Orion has been tattooed by one of my very dear friends, Mr. Greg Nicola. Yeah, Greg.
I listened to his episode today.
Greg hurt all of us.
I listened to Greg today. I listened to that episode.
Yeah, so Orion got his
Orion's blasted.
tank work. He's low key blasted.
Yeah, he's low key blasted.
He's what they used to say, you see, bro, undercover.
Yeah. You'd never guess. Guess what, motherfucker?
I know. Barcuso, always, of course, Joey Barcuso. Joey's our buddy.
Yep.
We went to Dofo with Joey. We did the polenta party.
How good was that?
It was one of my favorite things to do until they paid tribute to Pops.
Yeah, that was an emotional roller coaster.
And then there was an entire end of the table that was crying, and everyone else at the polenta party was like, "Are they sick? What happened to all
what's going
them
on
down
over
there?"
there? Yeah. And then Damien helped me break a chair.
And then Damien power slammed you through a chair.
Yeah, Damien power slammed me through a chair.
An interesting thing to see.
That was, I was like, hey, this chair was fucking struggling holding me. You can't lean on me.
Oh, yeah. You two went down and it was like, what is happening? We're crying.
Yeah, we're crying.
We're falling.
We're falling. We're laughing. We're crying again.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Big shout out to those guys for that, though. That was really nice of them. They didn't have to do that.
That was a really awesome thing. And your stepmom Laura's going to be in town, and we're going to do a Christmas Eve dinner and drink the bottle of wine that Barcuso.
Yeah, it's a Jeroboam. It's a fucking 4 bottles in one.
It's a big bomber, Orion.
Bigger bottle.
We'll have to come back at some point and talk about some drinking stories with some magnums of why did he sits back and laughs, and he saw me shout at the devil at the bottom of a creek, but we'll get there some other time. And then Eric Pease, obviously Western Storytellers, a fantastic friend of ours that's helping us out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Kayla and Tiff right there is Kayla Fox, who's expecting.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I know.
Happy for you.
Congratulations, the financial foxes.
And then Tiffania, which is your sister.
My sister's is if
so
you
they're
want
doing financial advice, and I highly recommend it. For anybody, and you don't have to put in a ton of money. You can do a little bit at a time, and if you're young, I highly recommend putting some fucking money away to grow for you. It is the best advice you can get in life, because when you get to be upper age, a little older than Jack.
Orion and I. Like how Orion's a little bit older than me.
Yeah. But you look at the money that's compounded over your lifetime, man. I'm talking 20 fucking years of compounding interest. You're gonna be happy that you did it. So look into it, man. Hit up our people. They'll fucking take care of you. They're
Michelle at City Mail.
Yeah, Michelle. Hey, she's coming on the show. I just got to fucking drag her here, apparently.
That's all you, Brother Bear?
Yeah, I gotta go get a haircut too. It's been a couple days.
I'll DM her, but I don't want to be weird. And then Zach, of course.
Zach the Ripper. Zach the Ripper. Yeah, Raven and the Wolves. Killer Tattoo Shop. If you got a couple of dollars to spend, you will not be upset. Tattoos are on your body forever, so you want to spend the money.
Yeah, and by the way,
unlike when I started. You got a tattoo machine. Let's go.
These are all shoutouts that we get no sponsorships from.
Yeah,
we all just do this because these are all our friends. And
these are good people. They're good people.
Yeah.
So check in on your friends,
please.
Yeah, and if you got that friend you haven't checked in on a while, check in on them. I got in my feels today, man. I was listening to some podcasts and I called David and I'm like, hey man, just checking in, want to see how you're doing. And he went through it. Yeah. I mean, and Chris, I went hunting with Chris, and Chris was like, I needed this. Yeah. So it's not always something crazy. You don't have to go out of your way and do these magnificent gestures, but a phone call, a day, a lunch, a fucking, hey, how's it going? Goes a miles, man. It really goes a long way.
Yep, that's one thing I love about Orion is he.
You guys talk all the time.
We do.
Yeah, I know you do.
At least once a week, we're always talking. We're always calling. It's funny, and usually when I'm driving home or I'm driving home and I'm off duty, he's on duty,
walking paces at the base.
Or he'll hit me at like 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, must be slow day for Orion.
Yes. Yeah, you're sitting there. Okay, got it.
But it's funny. We kind of have the same conversations for 90% of the time, and then there's 10% of the time when it's not and it's serious and it really means something. And so when the phone rings and it says Orion, like, I answer.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Either it's going to be we're just checking in or something's going on, and I know that if I need to reach out to him, unless he's literally
Flying.
dropping retardant
Unless he's saving
on a
your fucking
fire.
house.
And he's like, "Brrr," like, hang on, Jack, I'm kind of busy right now. Brrr. I'm like, all right, I'll call you back.
Call you later.
But I know he's a ride or die. He's
No, he's good people, man.
near and dear to my heart.
And you
so.
guys, you know, you're good friends of mine, and you introduced me to him, and I appreciate you, man. And you're just a good dude, man. I don't like you're a walk-on friend. We talked. I listen to podcasts and talk about walk-on friends, man. Like when you guys been friends forever, you just fucking accepted me.
But Orion introduced me to Neil. Orion's the one that found Neil.
Good on you.
So many years. So Neil with Giant Sequoia Guide Service. Orion found Neil for us.
So we have to plan a hunt. We need to go.
Yeah.
We need to do something.
Your fucking wonky ass schedule.
I'm getting better control of it. Seniority's a privilege.
Yeah. So
I pulled that card at work the other day. I was like, have you guys heard of RHIP? And they're like, what's that? I'm like, rank has its privileges.
you know, it's been hard to get drawn lately. I don't know what's going on in the world, man. I don't know if they're having really bad freezes or what, but it's been a couple of seasons now we haven't really.
Yeah, winter kills and stuff like that. There's a lot more to it than people think.
Yeah.
But whatever, we'll get something set up.
I'll get my steps in and get ready for that.
Yeah, buddy.
All this fucking walking on these trips, man, I'm like, time. Plus, walking in snow is fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Walking in snow is probably the worst. Through, like, cornfields, dude, where they left, like, a foot left of the stalk. I'm like, fuck.
And cold hurts.
Yeah.
Cold hurts.
Cold is painful. People don't
Yeah.
understand that. Like, yeah, it's one thing being cold, but when, like, you're cold, it hurts.
Yeah.
It's agony, so
Yeah.
we digress.
Oh, well. Well, hey, thanks for coming out.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
Appreciate it. It's
giving us a little bit of your insight, man. We'll get you back for some hunting stories and some things.
Oh, we've had some good times.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, and then we'll put something together, and we got to go shoot something.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
be fun.
We had a great time the first time we went out with Neil, so
Yeah.
Orion's always a good time.
Yeah. So
And he's a fucking fantastic cook.
yeah,
Dude.
cool camp chef.
Kendra's favorite salad to this day is a salad that Orion makes, and it's like 4 ingredients? 5?
Yeah, 4 or 5 ingredients. It's garlic, salt, lemon juice, oil, lettuce, tomato, and avocado.
If he made it for you right now, you would chain him up to a room in your house and you wouldn't let him leave.
See, I don't know how to cook, but I don't mind buying food. I'll buy it if you cook it.
He'll go into your pantry and I'll be like, hold on to your socks. It's insane.
Oh yeah. All right, man. So we put this fire out.
Let's put this fire
Let's put this fire out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've been Jerett.
I've been Jack.
I'm Orion.
You've been Orion.
We'll try that one more time. We'll take another pass at that.
Yeah. So we'll fly right back around the mountain. I've been Jerett.
I've been Jack.
I've been Orion.
And this is Shattered Wisdom Podcast, and you motherfuckers are welcome.